And with us now is retired Brigadier General Peter Zwack and former U.S. Defense Attaché to Russia, fellow at the Wilson Center Global, and Glenn Ignacio, retired Air Force Special Operations Commander, Defense Intelligence Technology Innovator. So my first question really to you both, and Glenn, we could start with you. What are these F-35s for that the president ordered down there to Puerto Rico today?
Absolutely. So the Navy craft that have down there have the capability to defend themselves against fighters like this. But at the same time, those are missile systems. So if something happened, they would fire. But the idea of putting the aircraft down there is going to give them sort of air cover. They're going to be able to intercept these aircraft and keep them away from the ships. So that's sort of a deterrence and also keeping them at bay so they wouldn't be within striking distance of the ships themselves. I don't believe a carrier's down there. And this is that top cover, air to air, that would be provided by the F-35s.
And what do you think, Peter?
Well, first of all, the F-35 is an extraordinary aircraft. And while the Venezuelan F16s produced by us are great aircraft in their own right, they can't match an F-35. I think just it's a message. And with the F-35, you immediately assert air superiority down there. And there are what, 10 of them going down there. So I mean, that's a pretty serious deployment.
Yeah, and the president today, as we just heard, he was clear that any further Venezuelan approaches against the U.S. Navy would not be tolerated. We just heard him talk about that. So what does this mean in terms of concern over some sort of escalating conflict between the U.S. and Venezuela? Peter, I'll throw it to you there.
Yes, I mean, anytime you have a lot of hardware flying and hot words, I mean, there's a lot of anger out there in the airways, especially from Maduro, and from our side, we're aggressive, and you get incidents that you can't plan. We would say in the military, you expect the unexpected. And in an environment like this, there are many different scenarios. And not just the aircraft, but we have 10 ships in the area. So there's just a lot of stuff that can go wrong, even though our military is superb.
Yeah. And Glenn, how much could President Trump do here without congressional approval as this moves forward?
Well, as far as being able to deploy the Navy and stay, again, at the high seas, there's a lot of things that are going into play about this strike and people talking about legalities and so forth. Well, first of all, they've been identified as a terrorist organization, which gives the ability to actually take those targets out, similar to that we've seen in Iraq, Yemen, and other places in the world. Now, being on the high seas, we also, as the United States, are not a signatory to the UN Convention of Law of Sea. Now, those are some things that protect vessels and stuff at sea, but because we're not a signatory to that, we're not really coming into that. So the idea that there's a direct threat with the fentanyl, I think it's the #1 killer from 17 to 25-year-olds in America, that this is a clear threat, so they took the attack to take those individuals out. That is very much of a deterrence to prevent people from using the oceans again to try to smuggle in any kind of drugs. It does get complicated going forward because are they going to use human shields? Okay, there's a lot of various things here. But the idea with the ships, the intelligence that they're able to provide both with the ships electronically and the human intelligence assets are really going to be incredible here. The F-35s are also not just a stealthy aircraft that can get in without being detected in some places, but they're very part of this network to be able to detect these type of threats and be able to either bring something to bear on them and pull the trigger, or even smarter, not to pull the trigger. So it's both ways. So I think that us being in there in the high seas, of course, which we are all protected just like anybody else, is the right way to operate and literally put that fence line out there to defend against any particular. And these drug cartels really are a threat.
And I was curious, too, because a lot of our attention, especially when we've been at the White House, a lot of questions on Russia, Ukraine, Iran. I just asked last month the president about the rumors that the U.S. troops would be sent to take on the cartels. I wanted to play that here, and we'll talk on the other side.
We're talking about sending military forces to fight against the drug cartels in Latin America. Do you think it's worth sending our forces, our U.S. forces there to take this on?
Cartels where?
Central Latin America.
Well, Latin America's got a lot of cartels. They've got a lot of drugs flowing. So, we want to protect our country. We have to protect our country. We haven't been doing it for 4 years. And we love this country like they love their countries. We have to protect our country. So, we're playing a tough game, but we'll have more to say about that soon.
So, Peter, are we stretching our forces too thin here?
Well, it certainly it could be if this thing ramps up even more so. I think following the example with Marco Rubio, the sextate, and President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico, they have kind of worked an agreement where the Mexicans are going to take the main effort. And we've agreed not to impose, if you will, ourselves on Mexican territory. I think that in the Caribbean, we just have to be careful in how we do project, that we don't somehow get perceived as the aggressive gringo up there. While obviously doing a very, very important mission in taking out these cartels.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, but I hope we do catch up again on this soon as we continue to follow where this goes next. Glenn Ignacio and Brigadier General Peter Zwack, thank you both so much for joining us on this Friday night.